is not replied to by the relevant deputy minister or another cabinet member on his or her behalf. So deputy ministers and acting ministers are authorized by the rules to respond to questions. However, in light of the conflicting information as to the availability of certain ministers, as well as the heightened tensions in the House, on request of the whips, I ruled that questions 41 and 8 stand over. These questions will be placed on the question paper for reply at the next question day when the relevant ministers are scheduled to reply to questions. To this end, I have written to the leader of government business to appeal to him to ensure that ministers are available to carry out their obligations in the Assembly. I now wish to come to the announcement on address and registration weekend. Honorable members, as we are all aware, this weekend of the 10th to the 11th March, the Electoral Commission is running an address and registration weekend. This weekend's activities form part of a national campaign to update the voters' role in preparation for the 2019 elections. I wish to take this opportunity to appeal to and encourage all eligible South African voters to please visit their voting stations and do the appropriate thing. This address and registration weekend is of great importance to ensure voters are registered in the correct voting districts and are able to vote in the 2019 elections. Is there ruling? The ruling on racism. It's not here. Okay. Okay, honorable members, I'll come back to the third ruling, to the third statement, which is a ruling about the incident in the House yesterday afternoon. The first order on the order paper is the first item on the order paper is a statement by the Minister of Health on the outbreak of Listeriosis in South Africa. The Honorable the Minister. Give me water.
Yeah. Honorable Speaker, my cabinet colleagues, ministers and deputy ministers, honorable members of the House, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First and foremost, let me take this opportunity to thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your prompt response when I made the request to make a statement on the outbreak of listeriosis in South Africa, because this indeed is important for our country. Members of Parliament need to have all the facts to help give clarity to their constituencies and also to help identify gaps that they may note in the legislative tools of the country so that we don't face this type of situation in future. Members of Parliament also need the information I am going to impart to help dispel an avalanche of rumors that are swirling around. Honorable Speaker, listeriosis is a disease caused by a bacterium, not a virus, but the bacterium which is called Listeria monocytogenes. You get it when you ingest food contaminated with this bacterium. Listeria monocytogenes is widely found in nature. It can be found in soil, water, vegetation, or feces of some animals. From these sources, it can contaminate from food from 4 different areas. One, from the food production side, that is the farms and the abattoirs. or from the food processing factories, or from the food packaging sites, or even from food preparation restaurant hotels, even in individual homes. From this food contamination, food gets into your mouth and infection takes place. And this may result in 3 groups of symptoms and signs. Firstly, you may get flu-like illnesses. That means fever, headache, general body pains, sometimes with vomiting, diarrhea, and stomach aches. Secondly, you may get infection of the bloodstream, which is called septicemia, which is very deadly. Thirdly, you get infection of the brain and the membranes covering the brain and spinal cord, which are called meninges. And the disease is called meningoencephalitis. Although any one of us, Honorable Speaker, can get listeria, those who are highly vulnerable are 4 groups of people. 1, pregnant women, because they don't have a very strong immunity. 2, neonates. That means newborns in the first 28 days of life, because they get this from their mothers. 3, elderly people above the age of 65. 4, people with suppressed immunity, like people living with HIV and AIDS, diabetes mellitus, cancer, chronic lung disease, chronic kidney disease, people on chemotherapy, or people who have undergone transplants and are on immunosuppressive therapy to avoid organ rejection. This disease occurs annually in our country, and doctors typically see 60 to 80 patients per annum. This has been the case for the past 40 years. The disease is treatable with an antibiotic called ampicillin, which is widely available in our health facilities, both public and private. Nevertheless, it's a very virulent disease and hence can cause a lot of damage. Honorable Speaker, for the past 40 years, listeriosis was not a notifiable disease in South Africa. This means that health workers did not have to inform any authority on encountering a person with the disease. Hence, there was no central data in any part of the country where people could refer to. For this reason, when an outbreak occurred, there was no easy way of picking it up. The question then will be, why was listeriosis not a notifiable disease in our country for the past 40 years? Honorable Speaker, for a disease to be notifiable in terms of the country legislation and also in terms of International Health Regulations 2005 of the World Health Organization, that disease needs to satisfy at least 2 of 5 qualifying criteria. 1, it must be contagious or communicable, moving from one person to the other. As we know, listeria does not move from one person to the other. 2, it must spread rapidly. As you know, it never spread rapidly for the past 40 years. 3, it must display unexpected or unusual behavior. Listeria never behaved unusually in the past 40 years. 4, if there is a risk of spill across borders. And 5, if there is a risk of travel or trade restriction across borders. In the past 40 years, listeria never did any of this. However, by December last year, it has become evident that listeria now qualifies to be notified because at least 2 of the criteria were satisfied. Firstly, there was a rapid spread. Secondly, there was unusual or unexpected behavior never seen in the past 40 years. It is for this reason that the Department of Health introduced a new policy of making listeria notifiable, and this has appeared in Government Gazette 41330 of the 15th of December 2017, meaning that from the 15th of December last year, listeria is now a notifiable disease in South Africa. So how will we know that we have got an outbreak in the absence of notifiability? I'm sure many of you are having this question. In July 2017, doctors from the neonatal units at Chris Hani Baragwanath and Steve Biko academic hospitals alerted the NICD, the National Institute of Communicable Disease, about unusually high numbers of babies with listeriosis, which they were not really used to seeing. Because there's no notifiability data to make a conclusion, the NICD started gathering that data. They conducted all laboratories in our country under the network of 265 public laboratories under National Health Laboratory Services. This was easy to collect because NICD is part of the National Health Laboratory Services, and hence they've got access to this data. They started gathering this data, tracing back to the 1st of January 2017, and used the data to construct graphs to see the trends. For comparison, they had to do each year from 2013 in order to do a year-to-year comparison to see if 2017 deviated substantially from the other years. The problem was encountered, Honorable Speaker, with private laboratories because they are not part of NHLS, and hence NICD has no direct access to their data. Their information started trickling in only in September 2017, especially data from 2013, which they did not necessarily keep at hand because they were not obliged to do so. By November 2017, the NICD had collected data that shows that 557 laboratory confirmed cases of listeriosis have been reported from all provinces. Most cases were found to be in Gauteng at 62%, followed by Western Cape at 13%, and KwaZulu-Natal at 7%. Hence, the three provinces accounted for 82%. 65% of the people who fell ill came from the public sector, and 35% from the private sector. Had the NICD rushed to analyze the analysis of the data only from laboratories which serve the public health system, then it could only have released 2/3 of the data, leaving 1/3 behind, which would have completely distorted our numbers. The NICD finished the analysis of data from both public and private on the 29th of November 2017 and concluded that there's listeria outbreak. They then asked for a meeting with me, and I granted the meeting on the 4th of December, and they told me about this. I decided to convene a press conference the following day, on the 5th of December, to announce to the nation. I want to inform this House that there's a narrative going around, which is very prevalent, that the outbreak started in January 2017, and we only started knowing about it in July because we were very slow. According to the data analysis, this outbreak started in June 2017, and the doctors at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital and Steve Biko Academic Hospital picked it up in July, the very following month. They could not have done it faster than that. The month of June, according to the data analysis, is the month in which listeria laboratory confirmed cases started differing substantially from the month-to-month figures of 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017 itself. So I'm repeating this. According to the scientific and mathematical analysis of the data, the outbreak started in June, not January. The January confusion might have arisen because I mentioned that we're analyzing data from January. Yes, we did so because we wanted to see a year-to-year figures based on a month-to-month figures. By the 2nd of March 2018, a total of laboratory confirmed cases had reached 948. Of these 948, a total of 569 patients have been traced, with 180, unfortunately, who had died. This constitutes 27% case fatality rates, Honorable Speaker. Of all countries that had had listeria outbreak, the case fatality rate has always averaged 30%. By November 2017, the NICD started analyzing or performing what is called genome sequencing. This is DNA fingerprinting to see the relationship between organisms and infection. The DNA analysis revealed that 9 sequence types, or ST types, were infecting patients. However, 91% of this sequence type was a sequence type called ST6. So the scientists told us that this is the one that is driving the outbreak. And when teams were going out, they were searching for listeria, but specifically for ST6. While this work was going on, the NICD scientists interviewed 109 patients who suffered listeria, and 85% confirmed that had eaten ready-to-eat processed meat products, of which polony was the most common, followed by Vienna sausages and other cold meats. While searching still, on Friday, the 12th January, 9 children under the age of 5 from presented at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital with febrile gastroenteritis. Stools from one of the kids isolated Listeria monocytogenes, and it was ST6. Environmental practitioners were dispatched to a crèche in Soweto where the kids came from. The kids had eaten polony from Enterprise and chicken sausage from Rainbow Foods in Sasolburg. Teams rushed to both Enterprise in Polokwane and Rainbow in Sasolburg, and Listeria was found there. On the 4th of March, 2018, midnight, NICT phoned me to tell me that the Enterprise specimen yielded ST6. I then called a press conference on the very afternoon of the 4th of March, where I made an announcement after informing the factories affected.
Honorable Minister, I'm told you have requested to be stopped at this point so that you have 6 minutes left to come back.
Can I continue and you cut my 6 minutes? Is that allowed?
You are only now left with 6 minutes.
No, can I
You can continue and,
okay. And you
use up your 6 minutes. You have the right.
I'll use only 1 minute because I'm concluding.
All right.
The announcement included a recall of their products and warning to avoid cold meats from everywhere because of cross-contamination in retail stores. I want to emphasize, Honorable Speaker, Listeria can contaminate any food. The reason that the problem is cold meat is because Listeria is very sensitive to heat. Any other meat that is cooked, it will die. But in the cold meat, it doesn't die. And that's why, because of contamination, we said people must avoid all cold meats. We are prepared to help families in whatever way, including giving them information and data and advice if they so wish to litigate. Thank you, Speaker. I'll use the other time when I respond. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Wilson.
Thank you, Speaker. South Africa is renowned for making records. And in the case of listeriosis, we have recorded the world's largest breakout of the Listeria bacteria. This is certainly not a record to be proud of. So where did the stink in the drink water come from? Or rather, where did the bacteria in the polony start? And who is really responsible? Listeria monocytogenes, a bacteria, is found everywhere. It will be found on the cattle ranches where beef is processed for meat products. In fact, probably most farms where livestock is kept. It can be found in water supplies, soil, vegetation, and animal feces, as the Minister has alluded to. In fact, almost the entire South African population at some point in their lifetime has been exposed to Listeria. Listeriosis, however, becomes dangerous when it contaminates food. Listeriosis is treatable. A quick course of antibiotics, and in most cases, patients are then good to go. The question then arises, why are we sitting with a record-breaking outbreak of a disease that has claimed the lives of so many South Africans? What could have been done to prevent this outbreak, and what was not done to avoid it? What role has the Department of Health played in this outbreak? It is common knowledge that the Minister has announced that the source had been traced to the Enterprise processing plant in Polokwane. And while I am not here to absolve the factory for the role they may have played in the loss of lives in South Africa, I question whether they are solely responsible. Are they the real source of the problem? The National Institute for Communicable Diseases, the NICD, who must be commended for their outstanding work in assisting with the investigation and the role they played in tracking listeriosis and its possible source, are clear as to what must be done in the hygiene and monitoring of food handling plants. In the department's norms and standards document, practices with regards to monitoring of food processing factories are made quite clear, and I quote, "Environmental health must implement an integrated food management system utilizing a hazard identification and risk-based approach for all food premises." It further states, "A risk categorization process is required which uses a site-specific risk assessment to determine the risk level, inspection frequency, and any other food safety strategies for the safe operation of food premises." A risk assessment should be conducted to assess conditions on the premises that may pose a threat to the health by identifying potential health hazards from the handling, preparation, and storage practices, and assessing the likelihood of a hazard posing a risk. And in food risks, estimate the severity of the consequences if harm could be caused, and make recommendations or action plans for the elimination and minimalization of these hazards. Risk analysis should be done with specific focus on food handling and preparation methods, hygiene practices, and environmental toxins on that premises. These are just a few of the norms and standards for adherence in your department, Minister's 147-page recommendations. The manufacture of fast foods or ready-to-eat foods, in the case of enterprise, is a fast turnover industry, particularly in South Africa, where the price of red meat is beyond the purse of millions of grant recipients. The time from process to consumption is very narrow, and therefore the risks are much higher. These factories should have been inspected every 3 months by an environmental health inspector. But were they? Perhaps the Minister can inform us. I raise this, Minister, because the responsibility of environment health inspections was dissolved from a national level to that of municipalities, the feeding troughs of corruption. This was under your watch. The World Health Organization stated that South Africa has only 1/3 of the recommended environmental health inspectors. Why, Minister? This happened under your watch. 180 people have lost their lives, and one must question what role your department played and if these deaths could have been prevented. The same question was asked in the Life Esidimeni tragedy. If quarterly inspections were done by qualified environmental health inspectors who were properly resourced with equipment and testing facilities, could listeriosis have been picked up at the outset? Where are the reports from these inspections, Minister? What do they say? What was tested in those factories, and who analysed the reports? Or was a clean bill of health granted in exchange for a few rolls of polony and Viennas? Don't give us half-truths, Minister, and don't lay the blame on others. When last did health inspectors deal with the mini spazas which are set up outside of schools in their hundreds? It is also amazing that other countries in the world are having an outbreak at the same time as South Africa. Are they also importing emulsifiers and white slime from the same places as South Africa? Can you tell us that, Minister? Are your health authorities at port control doing their job, and are they properly resourced? I put it to you, Minister, that you do not seem to know. You have blamed the problems of our failing health system at the door of provinces and shrugged your shoulders and pleaded innocence in the Life Esidimeni and Listeriosis corruption crisis. As they say, there is none so blind as he that will not or does not see. You are accountable, Minister. You are the Minister. It's time to take the blinkers off. You have been quick to advise us of the provinces in which these deaths have occurred. What you have not advised us is in which hospital and in which areas these deaths occurred. You see, Minister, on Tuesday I did an oversight at the Mafeking Provincial Hospital. I walked in well and left feeling sick to my stomach. The conditions were ghastly. The hospital is under-resourced, dirty, mold grows on the walls, people queued for 4 hours in the casualty departments, and the boilers were not even working. New mothers sleep on the floor in the maternity wing, which is equipped for 25 babies a day, but had to attend to between 40 and 50 babies daily. I am quite confident when I say this, Minister. Anyone arriving at the Mafeking Provincial Hospital with listeriosis, particularly children, would likely die. Nothing works, and under pressure, I assure you, Minister, the likelihood would have been a misdiagnosis. This, Minister, is your responsibility. The Ministry of Health and its hospitals are collapsing. Listeriosis and Life Esidimeni are tragedies. But the real tragedy is the thousands of people who are dying because of a failed health system. A health system which, for many poor and vulnerable South Africans, are a death sentence. You, Minister, are the judge and the jury, and you should be ashamed. I plead with South Africans to change their votes in 2019 and vote for a party with an outstanding health policy that will quickly rectify the failing of this government and who is committed to providing dignified health care to our people, something your department, Minister, obviously does not do. And I do not thank
Member,
you.
your time is expired. The Honorable Ntlangwini.
Thank you, Speaker.
Speaker, order, Speaker. Speaker, I hear the back.
Yes, Honorable. Is that Honorable Chauke?
No, that's correct, Speaker. I just want to bring it to the attention that we see participation of gallery. So if we can just try and maintain order of the House, Speaker, and maintain the rules of the House, the Speaker will be happy. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'd like to welcome guests in the gallery, but to also take the opportunity to explain that we don't expect our guests in the gallery to participate in the happenings down here. We would like you to just enjoy your presence and watch the proceedings without participating. Please proceed, Honorable Ntlangwini.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, the Listeria outbreak should have never happened. And before we know it, we would have an outbreak of Salmonella and even E. coli. We need to have a health system that is working. We need to have a food safety system within South Africa that is working. One life lost to foodborne disease is one life too many. However, Minister, we are glad that your team have worked hard around the clock to find exactly what is the causes of Listeria and the sources that have bring so much anxiety to the country. The fact of the matter remains, over 180 people have died as a result of these unscrupulous companies who prioritize profit even over the safety of people who end up consuming their products. Many families are left with permanent scars as a result of this. What is more painful, though, Minister, is the highly unlikely that anyone will be held responsible for this. Because of this, it is engraved in our DNA as South Africans, not to question transgressions of white companies. We just do not like taking them to task for corruption. In this country, it's okay for white companies to flout regulations and to make profit as long as those of the receiving end of they indiscretion, they inappropriate are black people. Both Rainbow Chicken and Enterprise Food must come here and account why did they not follow HACCP rules? Why do they not follow the South African government and international food safety regulations? We need to hold them accountable, Minister, and these people need to be prosecuted. It's not okay that 180 people have died to foodborne diseases and to many other things, and they are just continuing as nothing has happened. It's not okay. Whether it's from your department that have not followed the rules, we need to hold people accountable. If these companies were owned by black people, the DA Zionists would have been throwing their toys out of the court and demanding an accountability. But now they are quiet because the Rainbow Chicken and Enterprises are owned by white people. So now it's not going to be, they're not going to call for accountability, they will hold you accountable. So it's time that you do your job, Minister, and hold these companies accountable, and we need to hold them accountable as Parliament. We also call on the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture to do, of a matter of urgency, strengthen inspection services to a level where they would be able to pick up quality control transgressions very quickly. We cannot leave the responsibility to controlling the quality of our foods only to these white corporates, because they don't give a dime about the health and the impact of what they produce, unless it hits them hard in the pocket. As things stand, corporates are busy dishing out low-quality food stuff at an exorbitant price to mainly poor black clients. We shall continue suffering from foodborne diseases because, Minister, we also allow GMOs to take over our food systems. It is black people who do not have a choice, who buys, that is what is available, what is cheap. Ultimately, the buck stops with you, Minister. It is your responsibility to ensure that our people do not eat this poison. Minister, it starts with you. These companies need to come to Parliament and account. And regardless of where they are from, we will hold them accountable, because one life lost to a foodborne disease is one life too many. They cannot continue giving our people poison. I thank you. You will soon be known as Minister of Death and not Minister of Clean if you don't get up.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. The question I ask is, will it help us to say what should have been done, what would have been done, and use words if? It's not going to help us. The stark reality in front of us, Madam Speaker, is that 180 people have lost their lives, and more are at risk of losing their lives. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is going to be done to prevent further loss of lives? And that's what we should be doing. Because, you know, they say hindsight is the best sight. And we mustn't use hindsight here to try and resolve a problem of preventing further deaths. Honourable Minister, thank you for your statement. You have told us what the cause of the outbreak is. You've told us who is responsible and where the outbreak started. It reminds me of the foot and mouth disease in KwaZulu-Natal over 20 years ago. As a Department of Agriculture, and I was MEC then, we acted swiftly to isolate and prevent further contamination in that particular area, and it worked. And I compliment you for acting as swiftly as you did. After you knew on the 4th of March, you went into action to try and do whatever you can to prevent further loss of lives. We understand, Honourable Minister, that some of this bacterium is found to have originated in a so-called, I am not using this as racist, but a white paste that is currently imported from certain foreign countries into South Africa. So we call upon the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, and your department to thoroughly investigate, locate, and immediately advise of the source so that necessary import restrictions can immediately be put in place. The sad thing about this, Honourable Speaker and Chairperson, is once again, though, it is unfortunately our poor and most vulnerable who will bear the tragic consequences of this contaminated, for-profit, lowest-price food protein. How many deaths must there be before we realize that the food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, which are what sustains us and is essential for daily living, can be the very factors that cause our deaths? Speaker, the corporate entities involved with the spread of this bacterium into South Africa must bear the legal responsibilities and consequences of their actions. No amount of false legal poetry can absolve them from bearing prime responsibility for the deaths and continued ill health of those affected by consuming these contagious products. Of this, there can be no doubt, and we trust that such corporates will fully cooperate with the authorities in not only isolating and determining the origins and alpha point of this outbreak, but also in providing every assistance to those families so tragically affected by the loss of loved ones and to those who remain ill due to this bacterium. On behalf of the IFP and my leader, Honourable Motsoaledi, we want to extend our sincere condolences to all those families who have lost loved ones, and we wish those who are in hospital a speedy recovery. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Let me start off on behalf of the National Freedom Party and my leader, Zanele Magwaza Msibi, extend our condolences to the families of the deceased. Now, once again, Honourable Speaker, we came here to discuss a very, very important issue. And what I find is, instead of finding solutions, my colleagues on the left decide to start criticizing government for the efforts that government have made in a short space of time to identify the source of this bacteria. Now, let me tell you why they would do that. Because they are here to protect the white monopoly capital and nothing else. Now, let me tell you, Honourable Speaker and Minister, this particular company, it's not the first time that they have done this to our people. Remember, they were previously charged 99 million rand for stealing money from the poor.
Order, Speaker.
Who's calling me?
It's me, Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, is that a point of order?
Yes, the point of order is that the Honourable Member must be specific which people on the left. We are also in the left. He must be clear.
No, Honourable
Which
Member,
people in the left, Sheikh, are you referring
take
to?
a seat.
We are in the left, yeah.
Honourable Member, take your seat. Honourable Sheikh Imam, proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Speaker, I will clarify that for my colleague. I'm talking about my colleagues on the left. These people who represent the white monopoly capitals, the Democratic Alliance. Now, yes, I heard, Honourable Speaker and Minister, that the Honourable Member said something about that there may be other sources. Yes, you agree. With the 13% that come from the Western Cape, let me tell you where it comes from, Honourable Minister. I have repeatedly contacted the city of Cape Town. Their environment department and their officials from the municipality does not operate. If you go to all these flea markets and spaza shops that they are talking about, you will find contaminated goods, you will find expired goods, and they do absolutely nothing because they don't care about the poorest of the poor. They are only here to protect the interest of the white monopoly capitalists. Now let me tell you, and I must agree, Honourable Minister and Speaker, that there must be compensation. These companies, I must agree with my colleague from the EFF, they must be held liable. And the arrogant attitude of Enterprise Foods, where they are saying they are not held, must not be tolerated. They must be brought to account, because at the end of the day, it's our poorest of the poor that are affected. Now look at the products that are affected. It's the products that affects the poorest of the poor. Does it matter to the Democratic Alliance? It's not. What they did is they came here now to try and protect the elite, their colleagues, who are the ones that are funding them. So that is what they all are interested in. They're not interested in the poor. They're not interested in the blacks. It's only about themselves. Now, Honourable Speaker, I'm not expecting you to respond to what I'm going to say now. And you may not agree with me. Just as we have these bacteria and these diseases, that is as much as I am very suspicious, and I've said it repeatedly, where the HIV and AIDS comes from. The Democratic Alliance thrives on allegations. Now I want to tell you there are serious allegations. HIV and AIDS was created by men to get rid of the population, the black population in the whole of Africa, so that they can take control of our resources. That is what it is all about.
Sheikh Imam, your time
Thank
has
you very
expired.
much.
The Honourable Machege.
Honourable Speaker.
Order, Honourable Members.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Members. One of the key challenges facing our food production industry is the inadequate supply and use of sufficient environmental health practitioners. The World Health Organization recommends one environmental health practitioner for every 10,000 people in order to optimally monitor food production processes. However, according to the South African Institute of Environmental Health, President Dr. Silva Modele, South Africa has got one environmental health practitioner for every 30,000 people, which is 3 times fewer practitioners than the recommendations by the World Health Organization. Surely this disaster had to happen. This is one area, thank you. This is one area, Honorable Minister, that needs urgent intervention, both in terms of supply and usage. Secondly, we need to develop effective, accurate, and responsive early detection systems which are far-reaching. Had we had these systems in place, we would have avoided the large and unacceptable number of deaths as a result of listeriosis that has unsettled our nation. Honorable Speaker, the problem is hygiene that has caused the initial outbreak of listeriosis. This includes preparation of the food, which should be regularly checked by health practitioners. In the same vein, we need to go back to basics of healthy eating habits. In this regard, we call on government to include in the zero-rated food basket healthy foods, including white meat. Along the same vein, government must subsidize healthy food for all its citizens. As a nation, we need, with the assistance of government and the private sector, all South Africans must be able to access a means of organic foods. The benefits of healthy living and eating healthy are far-reaching. Healthy food is a good way to ensure the health of all citizens, and therefore much of the reliance on state hospitals would be reduced. Honorable Chairperson, cultivating healthy and organic food will also develop South Africa to be a leader in food innovation and production, as people will start to deal with new and innovative ways to produce sustainable diets. The United Democratic Movement would like to express its sincere and most heartfelt condolences to the victims of the listeriosis outbreak. We call on all communities to support the families and hold the government accountable for this unavoidable outbreak. I thank you.
The Honorable Alberts.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, dis inderdaad hartseer as mense eers moet sterf voordat daar besef word iets moet aan 'n probleem gedoen word. Dit is natuurlik nie 'n nuwe toestand in u portefeulje nie. Dit het normaal geword dat mense wat in staatshospitale beland, meestal soontoe gaan om te sterf weens gebrek aan dienslewering. Daar's talle voorbeelde daarvan. Dit op sigself is skokkend, maar dit is eintlik nou baie normaal. Die siekte van roekelose dienslewering deur die ANC-regering versprei egter soos 'n virus in ons land. Onlangs het ons die epidemie-tragedie gehad en nou word ons gekonfronteer met die grootste listeriosis-epidemie in die geskiedenis van die wêreld. While it is now very convenient to point fingers at certain companies, it is abundantly clear that there is a pattern of deaths arising and emergent from neglect and lack of service delivery on many governmental levels. It is interesting that listeriosis contamination is a phenomenon that is only found in third world countries. During their training, our doctors do not really focus on listeriosis as it is historically not present in South Africa. The fact that it is now present in this country at an unprecedented level is significantly symbolic in what is wrong with this government. It is clear that regular inspections of abattoirs and all role players in the food value chain is not taking place as it should. The fact that the inspection functions are split between the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health is indicative of a lack of coherent structural planning to keep the public safe against health hazards. Dan moet ons ook nog verreken dat van die proteïene wat voorkom in die vleis bestaan uit die sogenaamde wit slaim of verwerkte hoender wat ingevoer word. Dit is egter baie kommerwekkend dat hierdie bestanddele nie geïnspekteer word wanneer dit ingevoer word nie. En natuurlik baie sleg is wanneer dit uitkom dat daar wel kontaminasie is. En dis 'n gaping wat daarna gekyk moet word. Die aspek moet onmiddellik aangespreek word en die regering sal ook onmiddellik moet sorg dat meer goed opgeleide gesondheidsinspekteurs aangestel word. In general, the ANC government will have to ensure increased quality service delivery, or we will be facing more epidemics in future and breaking international records for all the wrong reasons. Thank you.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Speaker, honorable members, the ACDP wants to thank the Minister for his statement on this very serious matter. We appreciate the efforts by his government to keep the public alert of the threat and to be informed about the progress being made in narrowing down the source of the world's deadliest outbreak of listeriosis, which is said to particularly affect those with weakened immune systems, the elderly, infants, pregnant women, and their unborn babies. Our thoughts and prayers go to the families and friends of all those who lost their loved ones as a result of the infection. We also wish a speedy recovery to all those who are still ill after ingesting contaminated food products. Speaker, the department's decision to recall products suspected of being contaminated from the entire distribution networks of the manufacturers, both nationally and internationally, is welcomed. A thorough investigation must be made to ensure that the extent and tragedy of this outbreak never occurs again. While the ACDP is relieved that a breakthrough has been made finally, we are deeply concerned that the food safety standards of some South African manufacturers is well below par, and this is totally unacceptable. The department must ensure that more environmental health inspectors are employed to do spot checks at food facilities. Manufacturers must also be held to a higher standard and should be responsible for ensuring that their products meet stringent food safety regulations. When contamination has occurred and led to the illness and deaths of so many, manufacturers must be held to account. The ACDP also wants to see health inspectors visit all spaza shops in our townships. We are very concerned, Speaker, about the unhygienic conditions that most of our spaza shops, particularly those run by foreign nationals, are in. Some traders sleep and bathe in the same shops they sell food. Listen, some traders sleep and bathe in the same shops they sell food, and this is totally unacceptable. They live in shops that do not have toilet facilities, and people wonder what they do when nature calls because they only see them go to the back of the shop that does not have such facilities. This is reality that must be attended to.
Point of order.
The ACDP
Point
therefore
of order,
calls...
Speaker.
What's the point of order? Please take a seat, Honorable Reverend Mishwe. What's the point of order?
Speaker, I want to know if it's parliamentary from Fundisi there to stand there, a man of the cloth, and to be so xenophobic towards our African brothers.
No, Honorable Member, what do you describe as xenophobia?
He said foreign nationals, they come and do whatever.
Honorable Paulsen, please take your seat.
He othered.
No,
other
take
Africans.
your seat.
He othered other Africans, foreign nationals. That is such a racist, xenophobic term. I'm disappointed.
Honorable Paulsen.
And you're allowing it in this parliament, in this democratic parliament.
Honorable Paulsen, you seem to be quite obsessed with racism. I wonder what happened to you in the past few days.
This is a parliament that allows
Honorable
racism to
Paulsen,
unfold.
take your seat, Honorable Member, and allow Honorable Reverend Mishwe to finish his speech.
Het net met tijd gemors. The ACDB therefore calls on government to urgently look into this matter before another unknown disease breaks out. For the sake of the health of our people, health inspectors should start visiting all shops dealing with food, particularly shops in informal places. If I take Mr. Paulson with me, he will be shocked by
Unfortunately, your
what
time is expired, Honorable
he must not just
Mishwe.
politic here, we must be real.
Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm sorry that I did not inform you beforehand that I'm going to read this speech that is prepared by Honorable Chafta, who's member of this committee, because it has been deployed somewhere by our President. The reported cases of Listeriosis outbreak has again set a cat among pigeons, pitting the National Department of Health, the South African National Standard, and the South African Bureau of Standards against each other. Honorable Speaker, we challenge this House to put the following paradoxes in a proper situation. To what extent has the South African National Standards monitored
the work of standard and certification bodies like South African Bureau of Standard. Can we justifiably link Listeriosis to SABC for failing to provide conformity assessments occasionally? Has the SABC failed to promote quality of commodities, products, and services offered in the local market? Are we shifting the ball and losing the argument on this debate? These are the complex questions. Honorable Speaker, the health authorities have their work cut out to deal with this disease. South Africans should also do their part to observe the precautionary measures that have been outlined by the Minister of Health. We call as AIC upon the much-needed cooperation between the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, the National Department of Health, certification, accreditation, and standard quality control bodies, and all South Africans. Honorable Speaker, scapegoating the National Department of Health will get us nowhere. Men and women of integrity should be bound by a common vision of advancing quality health care for the benefit of poor South Africans. The culpability of enterprise cannot be overlooked. It has the duty and responsibility to provide commodities of good quality and standard in keeping with the international obligations. Indeed, heads must roll. Honorable Speaker, the challenges of our time must indeed propel us to shift gear and promote human rights. We call upon all the stakeholders to conduct regular checks in all suspected laboratories and factories in other provinces. Honorable members, let us avoid all processed food as cautioned by our Minister of Health. I thank you.
The Honorable Dundra.
Manibulele somlomo wendlu yowisomthetho weMzantsi Afrika. Nongqongqoshe abakhoyo nosekela babo. Namalungu omzi wowisomthetho wase South Africa. Nabantu base South Africa bamameleyo. Minister, let's commend your department and NICD of ensuring that they jump and ensure that lives are being saved. Let's also commend all health workers in this country, those that are committed in ensuring that our people's lives are saved. Uyabona ke kubhlungu into basithi xa sime apha kweliqonga. Sithi xa abantu bakuthi siyi-African National Congress sithi mabalale ngalinxeba abantu baseMzantsi Afrika. Kodwa khona ibhlungu nje ukuba sime apha sithi njenge amakhumsha esitsho, we play with the emotions of our people on such a very important issue. We agree with the FF on that people that are to take responsibility, who are the big multinationals, are to do that. We agree with the NFP, we agree with the IFP. And we thank you. Yes, we may have erred. Yes, leadership is about ensuring that where you have made a mistake or erred, you take responsibility. But it can't be, and it will never be correct that we stand here. Yes, because they own companies. Yes, because they have never been treated, they have been treated in the health sector. You know very well that we are coming from a system that people were treated according to their color. That is why when you stand here, you make an issue about the issues in hospitals. Yes, our hospitals need to be looked into. Maybe you don't know, maybe people of South Africa don't know. Ndifuna unikhumbuza abantu bakuthi into kokuba ubunikwa ukutya namayeza according to okokuba ibala lakho linjani. Isizathu sokokuba manditsho xa ndime kule ndawo yinto okokuba is hatching ukuyenza ibhola yopolitiko into ebuhlungu kangakanani. It is because nina bantu aba-owner ifactory zenkukhu ezitya izinto esingazaziyo thina abantu bangangomakhumsha. Nini abantu aba-owner igusha nebhokhwe ezitya izinto ekufuneka into babantu bakuthi baqiniseke ubomi babo buyasindiswa. You know what? You know what, honorable members? On the 19th of February, my secretary called me and said, Chair, I am in Khayelitsha. Where is Khayelitsha? I am in Khayelitsha. My aunt has been here from 3 p.m. Minister. It's now past 8. She was to be transferred to take up. I'm making this example because you think that you're holier than thou. Why is it being said when we stand here, the FF Plus stands here and say things are not right now. They are not right because it is the African National Congress that is in power. For your own information, I am standing here because I am from that sector. I am standing here because I know where we are coming from that sector. I'm standing here because I know the Department of Health is trying its level best to correct your ills. Yes. Because you go to private hospitals. Listen. I was admitted in a private hospital. Listen, I was admitted in a private hospital for three days. That ward was never cleaned. For 3 days in Cape Town. Here in Cape Town. Nowhere else, here in Cape Town. Ndifuna ukuthi kunike abantu boMzantsi Afrika njengokuba nibona into bayasiqhwitha basenza yonke into kuba kaloku kakade ngumuntu osebenzayo ozenza impazamo. Sifuna ukuthi ke kuni yimameleni into ethethwa ngungqongqoshe ethi sanukuzitya ipaloni sanikuzitya iVienas zibuyiseleni zonke ezivenkeleni nizithenge kuyo. Masiqinisekise into kokokuba abantu abaneswekire iimmune yabo evulnerable mabaqina abantu abadala nabantu abakhulelweyo masiqinisekise into kokuba bayamamela lento ithethwa apha. But Minister, Speaker, Honorable Speaker, as the leader of this Parliament, Parliament must stop giving us bread with processed food. I am demanding, standing here, if I have got that authority, it must be taken off. And as members of this National Assembly, we must then not eat. We must send it back because we must lead by example. It is important, therefore, honorable members, that Chapter 3 of the Constitution, page 21, the Constitutional Review Committee must look into all that because we think as the African National Congress that health inspectors must no more be, because they have been located in local government, they must be under the National Department of Health so that we are able to ensure that we employ more, honorable minister. Uyayazi ke? Niyayazi ke bantu bakuthi inhlupheko yaziwa nini? Inhlupheko yaziwa sithi kubuhlungu somlomo into yokuba si blackmailwe ngokuba sithetha ngobuhlanga kuba inyani yaluma. Aba bantwana bala creche eseSoweto ekugilishwa ebethe bagula. It's not because bayathanda ukuba kwenzelwe ipoloni kodwa is because of imeko kodwa sithi ke masilumke ukwenzela into kokuba ingaphinde yenzeke lonto. Members of Parliament, mhlambe bona ezisuitcase ezibhegini zabo as we speak banalento kuthiwa yi-wipe yokusula izandla. Mhlambe bona kuba kaloku banemali. Sifuna ukuthi ke bantu bakuthi xa uya kwindlu yangasese vasa izandla. Xa uzawupheka ukutya vasa izandla. The unfortunate part, Honorable Minister, is that because our people are poor, they buy food in bulk, they buy milk in bulk, and they make a mistake of taking that and defrost it and then take it back, which law nto yinto eyingozi kakhulu. Xa niyipheka ke inyama nina bantu bojayo sanukuthi hayi ndifuna ukuyitya ngoku isenegazi yojisise kakuhle. Kubalulekile into babantu bakupheke kakuhle ukutya. Kubalulekile into kuba xa uphekile ukutya kwakho kwaphola ukuthathe ukufake lento kuthiwa yifridge ngamakhumsha kodwa funeka ibe kwiqondo elingu-5. Nabo abantu bayakhala because the private hospitals has told to about 34% of people that have been diagnosed. Yes, honorable members, it's unfortunate that the Democratic Alliance stand here and speak as if institutions of health in this province are so good that our people are not suffering. We are saying to health workers through the Department of Health, and want to thank you, Honorable Motsoaledi. Sakubulela qabani. Because uba ubungakhange uke wathi apha uMagaba wathi yazi ingxaki yapha kwa health abantu funeka baqonde ba funeka bame kakuhle kuba uminister nosihlalo wakhona soloke baleka ekubalekeni kwakho ke uye wafumana lengozi uye wafumana esisithwakumbe abantu abathi xa abantu belele ukuthula kungelishwa into kokuba siphulukene nemiphefumulo bazokuma apha bazothi zeni bavotele ngo2019 yabona ke zeni azibanivotel intengu ngokwesixhosa kuba kaloku umbutho okhathalayo ngumbutho uzenza ezi zinto siqinisekisa into yokuba xa kuphindeka sibuya sizawubuya sinike izinto ezicacileyo ngesi sifo uyabona ke Somlomo uyabona Somlomo bendikhe ndatsho ndathi inyaniso iyaluma siyacela ke minister into ba makutrainwe more technicians makutrainwe more scientists makutrainwe more health inspectors so that issues of this nature 40 years ago who was in this country 40 years ago, who was leading in the health sector? So don't speak as if we must, just because we are afraid that we are going to be blackmailed, we don't speak the truth. We know that the truth hurts. Sabacela kabantu bakuthi ukuba mabamamele ningamamela social media owenza ijoke ngalento kuba lento esisifo sisifo siyabacela abantu abasebenza social media mabangasebenzisi izinto benze ijoke ngezinto ezi-affecta ubomi babantu. Ndiyabonga.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I was quite aware and prepared that whatever happens, the DA obviously is going to go on an attack. I was prepared for that, but what I was not prepared for is the desperation of coming to launch an election campaign on the basis of Listeriosis. Because Ms. Wilson actually launched an election campaign, even mobilizing people in the gallery to come and help you launch that election campaign because there's listeria. I knew the media calls to disparate alliance. I never knew that you are so disparate. You are even invoking the strategy of life is demanding. Now, life is demanding was a mistake committed in government, and the government took responsibility and is being punished. Listeriosis has been committed by a private sector company, and that's why you want to blame government again. Honorable Dlangwini, I can assure you, there is no way, regardless of what DA is saying, there is no way we are going to keep quiet. Laws are available to take people to account, and they are going to be punished in terms of the available legislation. There's no question that that's going to happen, I can assure you. And I finished my speech and I am repeating. Those members of community who want to litigate, we will give them all the information, we'll give them all the data, we'll give them all the expertise to help them to litigate. And we'll see what the DA will do. And on this score, you are also pretending or making as if when it comes to DA, things are right. Let me tell this House, when the Health Professions Council has accredited hospitals for internship, all the provinces filled the accredited spaces to hire interns. Gauteng, because of their financial problems, at least filled 86%. KwaZulu-Natal filled about 90%. Western Cape with the DA filled only 56% of those posts. I had to send interns to other parts of the country because I don't have powers over HR, and you are putting the responsibility on me. I want to take that power away, Honorable Speaker. If I had that power, I would have forced DA to create those posts. I don't have it, it's a fact. Don't give me the responsibility of authority I don't have. That authority of HR is in provinces, you know, and DB and DA has proven it. On the kids from Cuba, not a single one from Western Cape, even the poorest of the poor, is training in Cuba because you are refusing. Out of the 3,000 students in Cuba, not a single one come from Western Cape. If I had the power, that would not have happened. So that power is not there. Honorable Majeke.
Speaker, point of order. I stand on Rule 92, Speaker.
Honorable Minister, can you take your seat? Yes, Honorable Chauke.
Speaker, is it correct that the minister says that I will take the power rather than taking the power? Why is the minister not taking the power rather than warning people to take the power?
Honorable Chauke, that's not a point of order, it's a point of engagement with the minister.
Take the power, Minister.
Please proceed.
Power is taken via legislation, it's not grabbed. And I agree with Honorable Albert, Honorable Majeke, you're very right. We're very right. We have got a serious shortage of environmental health because environmental health practitioners or health inspectors, because that function was given to local government via the Constitution in 1996. We are not supposed to do that function. We have even tried to increase their numbers, and Treasury reminded us, and rightly so, that is a local government function. So we would very like, through you, Honorable Speaker, that it was a mistake for the Constitution to give that job to local government, because many municipalities simply cannot perform it because they've got basic, services which they must provide, like refuse removal, etc. So we do have a shortage, yes, of 3,300 environmental health practitioners. So we would like that part of the Constitution to be looked at and the work of health inspectors be brought to us. But be that as it may be, we did not fold our arms. The Director General of the Department of Health on the 15th of November drew norms and standards, sent them to municipalities. We did an audit of municipalities. We gave the results to different municipalities. We even helped SALGA to do workshops about this function. We did everything in our power, but I don't think many municipalities will be able to perform this function, simply for the simple reason that their core functions themselves are very difficult. Refuse removal, clean running water. So I would like Parliament to help me, not to shout, that that part of the question needs to be relooked at. This is a function that must belong to health. It must not belong to municipalities, because there's no amount of workshops which we can conduct. We have already done capacity building to 32 of the district municipalities in 6 provinces by the end of last year. We supported SALGA in collaboration with the Health Professions Council and NGOs to try and give this capacity. It's like Port Health. We discovered in 2011 that Port Health is in provinces. We came here when there was a problem at OR Tambo. You helped us change the legislation. We took over Port Health. We were able to hire 300 environmental care officers or health inspectors. We would like to do the same thing. Honorable Albert, I don't know whether I heard you right. When you said listeria is a disease of third world, that is a lie. Just last year only, Germany had 600 cases of listeria. France had about 600 cases of listeria. There are cases of listeria in Australia now. So your story of third world shows you are biased.
Time has expired.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I would like to recognize a delegation of councillors from the Eguruleni municipality led by the Speaker of the Council, Patricia Kumalo. They are here to benchmark on the rules of both houses and other related matters. Honorable councillors, you are welcome to Parliament. Now, before I allow the House Chairperson to take over, I'd like to make a ruling, honorable members. On the 7th of March 2018, during questions to ministers, a point of order was raised by the Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition in relation to a remark made by the Honorable Paulsen. He's still around. During the reply to a question by the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, the Honorable Paulsen took a point of order and addressing the chair said, and I quote, "That's so racist. You are just like this one, you are racist." In response to this remark, the Chief Whip of the Opposition contended that it was offensive and unparliamentary to call another member racist. At the time, I concurred that the remark was offensive, but Mr. Paulsen then denied that he had, in fact, addressed the chair in this manner. Instead, he claimed that, open quotes, "Speaker, I said, that is racist. I didn't say you are racist." The Honorable Steenhuisen must also listen because it is racist not to listen. Close quotes. In response to this, I indicated that I would consult the Hansard to ascertain precisely what the member had said. Having now had an opportunity to study the unrevised Hansard, I wish to rule as follows. Section 58 of the Constitution gives members of the National Assembly freedom of speech, subject only to the rules and orders of the House. Rules 84 and 85, read together, state that no member may use offensive, abusive, insulting, or disrespectful language, nor cast aspersion, nor cast personal reflections on another member's integrity or dignity. Such expressions and reflections being unparliamentary. Irrelevant of context, an allegation or insinuation by one member that another is a racist is clearly offensive and has accordingly always been ruled out of order. In this regard, the accusation by the Honorable Paulson that the chair is a racist, indeed unequivocally unparliamentary. Moreover, the comment directed to Honorable Listeriosis that he was acting in a racist manner is also out of order. Before I ask the Honorable Member to withdraw, however, I must also caution members from making statements that could be understood as a deliberate attempt to mislead the House. This itself being a serious offense and subject to sanction. If you know you have said something and subsequently deny it, then this borders on contempt. I must now ask that the Honorable Paulson withdraw the statement that members of the House are racist. Honorable Member, Honorable Paulson.
Speaker, I just withdrew. Must I withdraw again?
Okay. You are free to do it again. We may now proceed with the next item of the business of the House, which is a debate on an urgent matter of national public importance in terms of Rule 130 in the name of Mr. A.M. Sheikh Imam on the water crisis in the Western Cape, the city of Cape Town in particular, and in other provinces, and the impact it has on the country as a result of drought, global warming, and other contributing factors. I now recognize the Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, a very good afternoon and welcome to News Today. I'm Adisha Ntantla-Jaleni. You've just been watching the Health Minister's update and oral response session out in Parliament on the Listeriosis outbreak here in South Africa. We heard that now more than 4,000 tons of cold meats from Enterprise Foods and Rainbow Chicken products are now destined for the dump sites. He also outlined the steps that government is currently taking to contain the outbreak, but some MPs blame the operational standards of some of these merchants and vendors, saying that they bypass some of their health as well as safety regulations and standards without much account, while some felt that the blame should be put squarely on the shoulders of government and their health inspectors, saying that the shortage of staff in the sector is a very big contributor to this problem. The minister then said he was not aware that he came to a debate on an election campaign when he thought this was a debate on the outbreak of listeriosis, calling this a desperate attempt by the opposition parties. And when the matter was then compared to the Life Esidimeni tragedy, he said this was a problem caused by big manufacturers and not government. Let's take a quick ad break now. I'll be back with more news just now.
Welcome to Media Monitor, the show that analyzes the big news stories that made headlines. We bring you robust discussions on stories that made headlines in the week, where we interact with media analysts to unpack these top stories. Join me every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 Central African Time as I bring you riveting news and analysis.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Technology is used for both positive and negative.
Some governments block the internet in times of protest.
With this internet blackout, it's impossible for me to do it, so I have to travel to Douala.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens.
In Africa, people are always coming up with innovative ways to use technology to solve some of their problems.
The more interesting piece of technology is actually the artificial intelligence.
AI, it's utilizing data